Hey, I'm McCoy here, and you are listening to the Solar Panel, the Phoenix Suns Show.
And I feel like it has been weeks where, we took a week off and then we had a special episode where, we were giving our live reaction, if you will, to the Suns falling down in the draft lottery. But it is good to finally be back podding and on YouTube as normal. Thanks so much for watching or listening to the Suns Solar Panel podcast. You can find us individually on Twitter, Greg Esposito at Espo.
Hey, is it really a week off when you record 2 days after you would have recorded anyways? I don't think we really took a week off.
A week off, right? Exactly.
Dave King at Dave King NBA.
Hola.
And myself, Tim Tompkins at Radio Tim NBA. So as crappy as it is for the Suns to fall down in the draft, not ideal for anyone, but what that does help is the Suns salary cap situation. So I thought we would kind of do a little bit of a reset on Suns salary cap. Dave had done some research a couple weeks ago, kind of determined that the Suns were going to have between $7 and $9 million after some cap holds. Now that pick is farther down, it's not as good, it's not as expensive as well. And I also wanted to kind of talk about what happens if the Suns relinquish that cap hold on Richaun Holmes, because there's not a lot of signs that he's going to stay. So, Dave, take it away.
All righty. So I had done a salary cap article a few weeks ago for Brightside, and we also talked about it on the pod as well, after either right before or right after I posted the article. The Suns now, because they had the sixth pick, if they keep the sixth pick, let's just assume there's no real good trade partners and they end up keeping the pick. What the Suns will have is $4 million more than I thought they would, because the value of a draft pick, the cost of a draft pick, goes down around a little less than $1 million per slot. So with the sixth pick, that will cost the Suns at the 120% value a little under $6 million next year. If they keep that sixth pick, and that gives them a little over $11 million in cap space. If you remove Richaun Holmes's cap hold, that only adds another $1.6 million, puts you around 12. So what you the Suns really need to do is not worry about Richaun Holmes. You might as well keep that cap hold, because he's worth almost nothing. And what you need to do is actually look at other bigger cuts to the cap. And now, of course, there's trades, and you can clear cap space. But what you have to do is you have to get another team to accept the salary you don't want anymore for nothing. And so just saying we'll trade Josh Jackson into someone's cap space sounds awesome, and it's quite possible James Jones could do that. It's not that likely, because even the Suns wouldn't want Josh Jackson at $7 million. So, and that's what his salary is going to be next year. It's going to be $7.06 million. So you could try to do that. But the most likely way to create cap space is to drop Kelly Oubre Jr. off the books. Although people want to bring him back, I want to bring him back. His cap hold is a little over $9 million, and he would probably sign for a little more than that. But you know how restricted free agency works out. People aren't always signed in restricted free agency. So he may come back. And if you want to keep him for the just in case, then he's got that $9 million cap hold.
Well, is he the kind of guy where depending on the sequence you sign them, you can go over the cap for? So say.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So, right. He's just being held for the, let's see, what exactly is he? $9.63 million in a cap hold. So his salary would not count, because they would sign him last. So that 9.63 would be the number that puts them around 11 million right now.
So you either have to find some sucker to take on Tyler Johnson and that astronomical $20 million contract,
or you waive him. You can waive Tyler Johnson.
Wave and stretch
and stretch, and actually, because of his huge salary, that could create another almost 13 million in space this year. You would just have to absorb a little over 6 million a year for the next 3 years in dead money.
So, or they could try and negotiate something where he doesn't pick up his option, which is for 19 million, and then sign him for like 3 years, 40.
So you know what's super interesting is most other players have already announced or leaked or whatever that they're picking up their option for next year. Players don't have to tell a team until end of June. You don't have to say anything to your team until June 30th, whether you're going to pick up your option or not. But most players do. Tyler hasn't said anything yet.
You know, if James Jones finds a way to get Tyler Johnson not to pick up that option, I will completely 100% say nothing negative for a full episode about him or Robert Sarver, because that would be some amazing work there to get a guy who will never again sniff 20 million in a year to turn that kind of money down. That would be
So
unbelievable.
But let's recap this here just a little bit on Tyler Johnson's history. The dude had one mediocre season in the NBA at a young age. A team in the Brooklyn Nets really wanted to, because they had no draft pick. Sean Marks, his early plan was to sign restricted free agents to big offer sheets that their team won't want to match. Tyler Johnson had been a second-round pick, and so there was that fun little gambit that people were doing for a few years to when you sign that second-round pick, you can inflate the salary by giving his third and fourth years huge numbers. And that's what the Nets did for Tyler Johnson. Then Miami inexplicably matched it, but what ended up happening is that now Tyler's making $19.5 million, but he's really only around $11 million a year for his 4-year contract or something like that. So
look, I get that.
He was never worth 19.5. He wouldn't even tell you he's worth 19.5. But you know what, Greg? If someone said, "Look, dude, I'd like to give you $500,000 for next year." You know, scaling down to our world, right? Greg, I'd like to give you $500,000 for next year, but if you opt out of that, I might give you a little bit more than you're currently making, like what you really should be earning. I might give you a little bit more than that for the next 3 years. Which would you take, Greg?
I would say, give me the $500,000 and get the hell out of my way. Thank you.
Right. And then next year, you're just as marketable. So you could get that slightly bigger contract a year from now.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There's no reason for him to walk away from that money other than he wants a long-term stability and wants to be in Phoenix. He'd have to do, or he respects James Jones that much. In that case,
but it's money, right? So you may really love your boss, but if your boss says, "You know that $500,000 I promised you for this coming year, Greg, that you've been waiting for, you made last year, you can make it for one more year, and then you'll never make money like that again, Greg." And not to take you down to that level, but I think $500,000 is still something you wouldn't turn down if you could.
No,
right?
I would never turn down $500,000.
No matter how nice I am, can I really make a case for you to go, "Nah, I'd rather just do my regular salary plus 20% or whatever, what I'm really worth plus 20% for the next 3 years and know that I'm going to make it"? No, you take $500,000 and you run.
No, you'd have to. The way they'd have to do it is they'd have to overpay for the next 4 years, just not to the exorbitant amounts that they'd be overpaying this year, and still. It would take a lot to convince him.
What's that? Like a 440?
I think you'd have to be in that kind of range, but
like a 450, which is about 12.5 a year.
Yeah, it would have to be 440 or 450.
And do you really want him for that? That's the question. I mean,
what do you think Tyler's really worth in a competitive market?
7 or 8 million a year.
Okay, so here's the trade-off. Should Tyler make 19.5 for this year and then 7 or 8 million a year for 4 years after that, which is 30, let's say 30 million. Okay. 4 for 30 million. So that's 50 million over the next 5 years. If he just keeps his contract this year and then signs a market rate contract next year, or he could get 50, he'd have to get 40 in 4 years or 50 in 4 to be talked out of that, right? Because his market rate, 4 for 30 plus 1 year at 19.5 gives him 50 million in 5 years. You'd have to give him more than 50 million in 5 years to get him to opt out.
Yeah, well, and the question is, if do you have faith that you need that much cap space this offseason? Or have you then just saddled yourself to a guy that you're not 100% sure fits your long-term vision and at best is a backup as this team grows? Like, unless James Jones knows he has a legitimate seat at the table for somebody that you need that much cap space to get, I don't think it makes any sense to try to tie yourself to Tyler Johnson that long at that rate.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. So, but then as Tyler's what, 28 this next year, I think. So then he's got to think about, because I'm going down this road here a little bit. 50 over 5 is what he reasonably is his opportunity cost of keeping the 1-year contract and going market rate, right? So how can he otherwise make more than 50 and 5 or at least 50 and 5?
Got to have an incredible season.
But no. I mean, no. I mean, if he's just a normal guy, he'll make 50 and 5 because he'll be at 19.5 this year.
So the way he wouldn't would be by having an incredible season this year and then upping his value as he heads into free agency next season.
Yeah, he'd have to bet on himself and hope that the Suns don't sign a point guard and he's the starter.
No. So if he just keeps his contract, I'm thinking down a different road. I mean, you guys are right too, but I'm thinking down a different road. If he just keeps his contract, his best bet is to keep the 19.5, outplay, kick ass, because the Suns can't sign anybody else because they're the 19.5. And then he gets even more than 50. Sure. But he knows he's probably going to get 50 over the next 5. If he just takes a contract from the Suns at 4, because they can't go 5 years, at 4 for 40 or 4 for 45, he'll probably at least make the same money, and his team can be better next year. Because at 19.5, you're also pretty much assuring that the Suns are not going to be good next year, right?
Yeah. Well, and he solidifies, he gives himself a stable future because he could go with that 19.5 this year, blow out his knee.
Right.
Yeah.
What if he blows a knee and now he's really not worth a full mid-market salary next year?
All right. Well, other than him, though, basically you'd have to find J.R. Smith is the last guy with a big contract from the old CBA, right? So you'd have to find a way to dump like a TJ and some pieces there to try to get that and then cut him and save that money. Is that a possibility?
Don't you think Cleveland wants a little bit more value for the last great releasable contract?
It depends on what they look like. See, this is tough because
no.
I mean, this is tough though. What's value in certain GM's eyes? I mean, getting rid of J.R. Smith for anything serviceable might be enough. Like TJ Warren, a future draft pick. I mean, they may think, hey, this is a win just simply because we're getting pieces in this rebuild for a guy that's never going to play here. Like
being able to dump J.R. Smith without having to attach a pick to it, I think is a value.
Well, you might be you might be right, Tim. But there is potential value in a GM being able to create cap space for himself through a trade. And J.R. Smith is one of the last great opportunities to do that.
Yeah, but is anybody going to offer more than the Suns might be willing to in terms of if let's say TJ's the feature piece of that? I don't think anybody's offering more than a guy that has done what TJ has in the league for J.R. Smith's dead money.
It would be shocking if the Suns didn't at least pick up the phone and say, "We'd love to talk to you about J.R. Smith's contract."
Well,
yeah.
With our luck, James Jones would want to keep him though, since he's an old teammate, and then it screws things up, right?
Well, you release him, then you re-sign him to the minimum or something like that, and then you get Michael Beasley Jr. with, dude.
So what?
My greatest memory of J.R. Smith is when in the middle of a play in the playoffs, I believe, he just stopped playing and shook somebody's hand on the sideline.
That's a very J.R. Smith thing to do. I remember. Didn't he hit a game winner against the Suns when he was playing for the Knicks?
Oh yeah, no, I know, but I just there's that. I mean, he was a pretty good player until he wasn't.
That is analysis there, people.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we do want to go ahead and thank a listener, and really for you watching on YouTube or listening on your phone right now to the podcast version of the Sun Solar Panel. One thing that you can do is support the show by making a monthly donation, if you will. It's either $1, $5, or $10. If you do the $10 option, I will personally send you some Sun swag. All you have to do is open up the show notes below or on YouTube. Just look at the description. There's a link in the description for you. And this week we do want to thank Louis Cicito for doing the $10 option. So Louis, thank you so very much. It really does go a long way. And
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
You're
Louis.
awesome.
I'm hoping someday I can afford to, for those of you watching on YouTube, not sit in my car and do this. It looks like I'm doing a Subaru commercial right now. So
Well, you're just Greg. This is the epitome of mobile devices.
it is, and this is the epitome of being the father of a 2-year-old who sleeps right next to where you record. Sometimes it doesn't work out.
So it really is incredible though that you can now do a live or a video show essentially from your car.
You know what's also amazing? Since you need good audio, I can't have the air conditioner on in here, and it is literally a sweat box.
You know what, Greg? But the weather is perfect.
I know, but I can't sit
Only a sweat box
outside.
because of your own body heat, though, man. The weather's
This is
perfect.
true. This is true. I just glisten on the YouTube.
I almost
version
got
of the show,
cold at
so-
the D-backs game last night.
Almost.
Almost. I didn't, but almost.
Every time Greg breathes, we can hear it into the microphone.
This is not the ideal setup. I
I can
apologize.
text him to tell him because his phone is set up on the front of the dashboard in the car, and I don't think he'd be able to see it from there. I'm actually worried that if it vibrates, it'll fall down, and then we'll get, so it's a whole thing.
Production secrets of the show right now.
I digress. So it's probably not worth a lot of discussion, but I feel like we should bring it up anyway. Look, so the NBA, for some reason, is sticking with we're going to announce these things in June when no one really gives a shit anymore, which I think really hurts like the MVP. Like in June, no one cares about the
Tim,
But-
can I interrupt for a sec?
Yes.
I just want to do I want to put one little bow on the salary cap conversation. I know people have already tuned out and stuff, but just to put a bow on the salary cap thing, if James Jones gets a bead on a free agent that wants to come here, say, for example, Kyrie Irving wants to come to Phoenix for some odd reason, okay? The Suns really could drop the Holmes cap hold. They could drop Oubre, his tiny little 1.6, and they could waive and stretch Johnson, all within their own control, and create up to $36 million in cap space just from dropping those three players. So you won't have Holmes next year, you won't have Oubre next year, and you won't have Tyler Johnson next year. But you would have Kyrie Irving, or you would have a Kevin Durant, or whoever it is that's in that mid-30s range of free agent out there that wants to come to the Suns for some reason. I just want to let people know that James Jones has it completely within his own power to create that cap room if he wants.
Oh, great. So we can create $36 million in cap space to sign Darren Collison and Tobias Harris. Good to know.
All right. So going back to it now. So the NBA is doing their awards in June, which I can't believe they're doing 2 years in a row, but the Suns do have a player that is up for one of these awards, Rookie of the Year. He is in the running with Doncic, Trae Young, and of course, our very own Deandre Ayton. The likelihood that Ayton wins Rookie of the Year.
About as likely as James Jones winning Executive of the Year next year.
I think that's more
gonna
likely.
happen.
No, I'd say it's about as likely as James Jones winning Executive of the Year for this past season.
Okay, fair enough. I think it's the old I think it was Animal House 0.0 is the chance here. It's not happening.
But Greg, did you give up when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I did. And when I watched nobody give Deandre Ayton any respect during the season, I highly doubt they're going to give him any respect after the season, voting for an award.
Well, they've already voted. They just aren't. Oh. All right. So he's probably not going to win. Pretty cool. You can watch him in June, not win on TV. So that's that.
So did they really? Let me ask a question. You guys might not know the answer, and I don't have time to look it up during the pod. But the players also have their own awards series. They did
Yeah.
last year,
They did last.
right? So the one you're talking about with the 3 finalists is the media
Yes.
awards. That's the Basketball Writers Association, which, by the way, declined to let me in when I tried to get in a few years ago because they said I was just a blogger.
I like this organization. I now approve of them doing their awards in June since
They
won't let
literally
Dave.
had one of their only bloggers that they had ever allowed in. I won't say his name because it wasn't really his fault. But they had one of the very few they'd ever allowed in, and he said it's the toughest decision ever, but we can't let you in because you're just a blogger. And so I just said, F you guys. But anyway, that organization, as wonderful as they are, do one set of awards, and that's who we had the finalists for. The players do their own awards. They have a little bit different titles on them, but I'm pretty sure they have their own Rookie of the Year or something like that version. I guess I'm curious whether how the players would vote differently from the media. Do you know if they released those results? We'll have to keep an eye out.
I don't think he finishes any better with the players than he would with the media. I
would think that Trae Young would finish better with the players.
That was my thought too. He might leapfrog Doncic with the players, but I think Ayton's third in both cases, which is fine.
And I think that's totally fine. I really do. I was just curious to see if the voting would be any different. Like you guys said, it could be just between those other two guys, and that's totally fine. Ayton had a historic season for a big man. It just wasn't. It was just a year in which, the Malcolm Brogdon year, Rookie of the Year. Guess what? I think Ayton would be Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
By a country mile in that case, for sure.
Last year was just a really, so far anyway, it was just a really good draft.
There could be half a dozen all NBA players coming out of that draft alone in the top 10, let alone anybody who develops outside that top 10 into something nobody thought they would be.
Also, at the end of the day, Rookie of the Year doesn't mean anything. What matters is whether or not he turns into a cornerstone piece for the franchise.
Yeah, give me perennial All-Star. That's what I care about. Whatever.
All NBA. I don't care about All-Star. All NBA.
Fine. All NBA.
Yeah. Let's talk about, just for a second, how do I want to put this? Because I'm just formulating it as I'm talking. But let's talk about Deandre Ayton's potential here. Now, I know he's got all the skills. He has he has quick feet. He can do anything he wants to. If he had like Draymond Green's mentality, he'd be pretty awesome defensively because he's got the feet for it. He's got the length. He's got the twitch. He's got the ability to move quickly and stay in front of people. We've seen him on some of those plays defensively where he locked in. He can guard the perimeter if he really wanted to. What's going to hold Deandre Ayton back is his belief that he can do that, his own belief, his own maturity level, which he may never get, right? But he does have the ability to be one of the best players in the game. What's always going to hold him back is whether he believes that and knows what it will take to get there, because the dude is really just going through life, enjoying things right now. And at some point, if he ever turns serious, it could be incredible. But even if he never does, he'll still be a Karl Anthony Towns type, where and that is no small feat because that's still all-star level. It's just not playoff changing level, right? Karl Anthony Towns is not a playoff changer necessarily right now, but he is an all-star. I think Ayton gets there even with his current mentality just from natural growth, but I'm not sure that he ever becomes one of the very best in the game unless he totally grows up one year and we all go, wow, what happened to him?
I think it depends on if Monty Williams can connect with him on a personal level. I think if Monty Williams can actually gain his respect and truly gain his ear, he's probably a guy that can help him mature because he's seems to be a very serious, very caring kind of figure that could change his perspective. But it all depends on, can he truly connect with DeAndre Ayton, and to a lesser extent, can he truly connect with Devin Booker? I think without that major respect, I don't think it changes DeAndre Ayton. He may become a better fundamental basketball player, but the mentality doesn't change unless somebody truly connects with him and gets him to buy into that mentality.
It's going to take something like that. Someone's going to have to help him he's going to have to turn his own corner personally, right? You can't just channel other people. You have to be your own, but someone's going to have to connect with him to find that in himself. But I still think he can be all NBA, even if he never does that. It's just, I'm thinking beyond that to playoff changing. Like, there are guys in the league who can make a difference in the playoffs, and there are guys in the league who need other people to make that difference.
Yeah, it's the leap from good to great. And what is it going to take for him to make that
even
that
very
leap?
good to great? Like, I think he'll just be very good, just naturally, even if he's still goofy as hell.
Well,
I really loved when he took that kid to the draft lottery, right? The video of him having fun with that kid. He said that was one of my best days ever, just hanging out with 6 and 8 year olds. And good for him. He enjoys life. I appreciate that in a person that can just enjoy where they are. They're present in the moment. The thing is that he's got to get more focused on the future and what's to come rather than just living in the present.
Yeah, well, and I don't want to snuff that out of him. Like, Shaq found a good balance of being able to be that guy.
But Shaq also came in like a bulldozer too.
Well, that's true, but I think part of that was pure brute strength that nobody else could quite contend with, that Shaq had the advantage of. But yeah, let's not kill Deandre Ayton's joy in hopes of building a great player.
If you can have some balance between Dwight Howard and Shaq, that'd be good.
Yes,
because
exactly.
Shaq was still a goofball as hell. Remember that? You know this story as well as I do, where he used to tackle who was it in the locker room?
I think Lou Amundsen was one.
No, one of the trainer guys.
Oh, Mike Elliott. Yeah,
Mike Elliott. Yeah. Shaq used to fully disrobe coming out of the shower. He would literally just go and tackle Mike Elliott.
He used to torture Lou Amundsen. He stole his bike and would hide it all the way, because Lou Amundsen used to ride his bike to the arena, and Shaq used to torture him by stealing it and hiding it all over the building. Like he certainly had a kid's a heart, and you want Deandre Ayton to keep that, but also find that bulldog mentality when he steps between the lines.
Yes.
So as we head into this offseason, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the agency and trades, and there's going to be a lot of terminology. So I do just want to touch on something really quick so everyone listening is on the same page. So right now the Suns have bird rights on Rashawn Holmes, Troy Daniels, and Kelly Oubre, but really what I want to touch on is what a bird right is. In essence, it's the Larry Bird exception that allows teams to exceed the salary cap to re-sign their own free agents, meaning that if the Suns wanted to go over the salary cap in order to keep those free agents, that they would have the ability to do so, which could, in theory, give them an advantage over other teams that don't have bird rights on that player, meaning that they could essentially offer that player more money than possibly some other teams. Unfortunately, with the Suns right now, they aren't really at that point in the franchise when that's something that could be incredibly useful. But
actually, it is the bird rights because the Suns have a ton of guys on rookie contracts, but those happen to be guys who were high draft picks, and it's surprising. We just talked about this earlier in the pod. Right now, if the Suns don't do anything, they only have $11 million, which is barely over the mid-level, to spend on other teams' free agents. The Suns cannot exceed $11 million in a starting salary for any one player, or a total of all players they want to sign from other teams exceeding $11 million. However, they can do that first and then re-sign these other guys you talked about with the Suns having bird rights on and exceed the salary cap for their own players. So it actually does surprisingly, sadly, matter to a 19-win team that they have bird rights.
Yeah, if they're willing to go over the cap to do it.
I think Sarver has never had a problem going over the cap. His problem has been going over the luxury tax, which is about $15-16 million higher than that, I think. Well, it's in the 90s.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, is that, and I don't know Robert Sarver personally. I would just think that you wouldn't want to go over the cap for a team that won 19 games.
Depends if you're trying to keep a core together that you believe in for the future and who you're adding. I mean, if you're adding guys that are going to make you a 22-win team on top of that, no. No. If you're adding a the guys that help you make that leap into the 30s, maybe you consider it so you can continue to build on it the following offseason. It depends on, do you have a legitimate plan? Are you executing on that, and who are you adding?
But you guys are talking really logical big picture. Robert Sarver is much more of a knee-jerk guy. On July 1, if James Jones comes to him with a proposal that we can do this, that, and the other thing, and Robert, you'll end up $15 million over the cap, but we'll have this team that we think can compete for the playoffs next year, Robert will do it.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. Then the question will become, how realistic was the bill of goods that he was sold? Can that team actually compete?
And that's always been Robert's problem, is he cannot tell how realistic that bill of goods was. A few years ago, it was Tyson. If we just sign up Tyson Chandler and LaMarcus Aldridge, we're back in the game, Robert. And then, Ryan McDonough did that to him a lot. And guys before that did that to him. And Robert did it to himself the summer of 2010. He talked himself into something. He's willing to spend the money and exceed the cap. Where he really started choking was early in his career when he was told to spend the luxury tax on a guy like Kurt Thomas. And then I don't know if he would do that again. He might still do that again. Force his GM to trade a second string center so he could get under the luxury tax. That could happen again. That's where he starts choking, is when he has to pay his peers some of his own money, his peer owners some of his own money. He's never had a problem exceeding the salary cap, as long as he's the one spending his own money on his own team.
I thought it was kind of interesting. So there's been some Kyrie Irving talk, chatter, if you will, over the last week or so. And I was reading a report, and I do want to actually quote, this is from the Boston Herald. I thought this was interesting, regarding Kyrie Irving. And here it is. The most interesting bit of information from several sources that we've been able to consolidate and confirm is that some teams thought to have interest in Irving as a free agent are now a great deal more wary. Based on the way things played out with the Celtics, the season, and Irving's role both off the court all year and on it during playoffs, the playoff loss to Milwaukee, certain clubs are concerned about putting too many eggs in his basket right away. Two teams for certain are telling people they will only go after Irving if they land another marquee free agent, and that player says he wants to play with Irving.
So that could open an opportunity here for the Suns to make a move there. My biggest question is, if he believes the earth is flat, does he believe the sun is flat? And how does that play into all this? Because
that disc out there.
Yeah, do you have to change all your animations in the starting lineup graphic where you show a round sun if you're Kyrie Irving? Those are the kind of questions that come up.
And really, to be honest, Arizona's pretty flat.
This is true, except for the fact that we're in a what Ron Wolfley would call a basin, and there's mountains surrounding all of us. Those are
the actual truth is the Earth is round, and the actual truth is Arizona is about the only state. I think it's the only state in the country that has all 7 climate zones or something like that. Because yes, a third of the state is almost a mile high in elevation, but that's just the truth. The common thought is that Arizona is flat and only desert. And the common, so that might totally jive with Kyrie's state of being.
Can you, on a serious note, can you really convince Kyrie Irving that his best situation is to come to Phoenix and put himself in this? Because
at this moment, we don't know how effective James Jones and Monty Williams will be in a room with these guys.
I understand.
They all love these two guys.
I understand that, but the perception of this, right? He just came from a Boston situation where, unless he does not care about the expectations and would like less pressure, I don't see Phoenix being an option, because he's in Cleveland, championship expectation. Went to Boston, championship expectation, and level of talent. If he leaves
both of those, that's clearly not his goal.
Yeah,
he wants a championship, but he didn't like all the pressure. And no, I don't think he would make a decision to come into Phoenix. Well, I only have to win 35 games, so I'm good. What he's going to do if he does pick Phoenix, what he would be thinking is, I can be the guy that no one's going to say I'm not good enough for. And I like Devin Booker. I like Monty Williams. I like James Jones. I think this has a good future, and I can be the guy, and I can be myself because there's no other stars and there's no other pressure. Like with Boston, it's the collective. You're not allowed to be a solo star. In Cleveland, it was the LeBron. You're not allowed to be a solo star. In Phoenix, your only competition is 22-year-old Devin Booker and 20-year-old Deandre Ayton. They're not going to try to dominate you. They are going to completely defer to Kyrie Irving. And that may be attractive to him.
Yeah, and in Boston, he had the historical pressure, which you wouldn't have here in Phoenix. But I guess the question then becomes, okay, if there's a possibility Kyrie Irving wants Phoenix, should Phoenix want Kyrie Irving? Like, should the Suns actually legitimately want Kyrie Irving?
I was wrong 2 years ago because I said no on trading the potential of Josh Jackson for the reality of Kyrie Irving, and I was dead wrong. Yes, you get Kyrie Irving. Yes, you pay him for his. He's going to have people oohing and awing every game because of his handles, because of his ability to do things that nobody else has done in Phoenix. In different ways than since Steve Nash. I mean, there's only so much oohing and awing that DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker generate. Kyrie Irving is going to sell tickets. Kyrie Irving, even when he gets older, and he's still mid-career, like the dude has 5 good years left. Is he going to? Who cares if he is the difference on a championship? You know, he can hit the game-winning shot in a championship game. We know that for sure. And so I really think Kyrie Irving is somebody you should be spending your max money on in Phoenix.
Oh, I mean, and beggars can't be choosers, right? If you've got somebody that has star power, I think you certainly have to pony up and bring him in here.
Sure. If Kevin Durant wants to sign with the Suns, you say, sorry, Kyrie, we're going with Kevin.
Yeah, well, and to back to in a heartbeat, or if you can trade for Anthony Davis,
wants to come to the Suns, you say, sorry, DeMarcus, we're going with Kyrie.
You say, DeMarcus, we'll give you the $5 million that you got from the Warriors.
How about this? DeMarcus Cousins wants to sign with the Suns. Do you say, sorry, DeAndre Ayton, you're now coming off the bench?
No.
You make the stupid attempt to play them next to each other, and then everyone regrets it.
That's what they should.
That's what happened.
Back on the Kyrie, you brought up the potential to trade for him a few years ago. The premise, I don't think anybody was wrong in. It was the player that was drafted that was the wrong portion of that equation. If you drafted De'Aaron Fox, or if the Celtics had taken Josh Jackson, you get Jason Tatum, it's still the right play. It was the individual player that was selected that was the wrong part of that equation.
Which is what you were doing. You were rolling the dice on the future and giving up on the present. And right now, I think the Suns are at the point where they need to start signing for present and not future.
Agreed. Because if you had traded for Kyrie Irving at that point, there's no DeAndre Ayton, because you don't wind up with the worst record in the league and getting the number 1 pick that year. So there would have been consequences there.
Difference maker, Craig. So maybe you still get DeAndre Ayton.
He would have been enough to keep them out of being the worst record. So that it would have been enough to change. It's the butterfly wings flapping thing.
The butterfly flapping, yes.
Yeah. So kind of want to spend the end of the episode sort of talking about this. So we're going to be talking about a lot about free agent position by position. Maybe something that's less important, but I still do feel like has a lot of value with this team, especially there aren't a lot of indications Rashawn Holmes is coming back. There's not a lot of indications he's not coming back, but really he's not. I haven't seen any pictures of him hanging out with players. I don't recall an exit interview saying how he really anticipates coming back. Nothing. Maybe Dave can point to this a little bit better than I can.
I would support your statements.
Right. So the Suns need a backup center. What type of backup center would be best for this team and for DeAndre Ayton?
Aaron Baines.
No. What type? Not a name.
Okay. Sorry. So type profile would be someone who is not afraid to be physical, someone who will bang, who will do the dirty work, and also has some athleticism. So it's not like DeAndre goes, yeah, but that's not me. It's got to be someone who DeAndre can relate to that can help him with his physicality.
I agree. And an Aaron Baines type would be the type that I think.
I mean, he may not be as athletic, and actually DeAndre might not relate at all to Aaron Baines, and that may make the Suns better, but not DeAndre better. So, if Tim, was your question, what kind of profile is best for DeAndre, or what kind of profile is best for the Suns?
Well, I mean, you could separate those. You could put them together. No, it's really.
Well, I just don't think Aaron Baines advances DeAndre Ayton's career, but I think he'd be a great counterpart for the Suns in that center position.
Okay. In my opinion, I think the Suns should go after a veteran type big that can still play. So not a
Tyson Chandler's unrestricted.
Not a Tyson Chandler. All right. So my follow-up question is, how much should or will the Suns be willing to spend on, let's just call it 1 year, of a backup center?
Not much. I don't think that's where your money should be invested.
So
Tim, you tweeted this morning a list of all these guys, right?
And I'll get to that. I don't want to go through that yet, because this is going to dictate who on this list we even talk about.
Well, no. I just the point I was going to make is your question was, how much should the Suns spend on a rotational value backup center? And I would say league minimum, because so many centers are out there and available.
Okay, so $3 million, is that around what you think the Suns will or should be spending for their backup?
Yeah, no more than that.
Okay. So then let's talk about some of the unrestricted, and I'm going to leave out players that have player options or team.
And I'm sorry. Let me clarify what I mean. I don't mean $3 million in competitive salary money eating out somebody else. I mean literally league minimum, where you can exceed the salary cap, because league minimum contracts allow you to go over the cap. So the Suns will have already spent their free agent money. This would not be money that would eat into their sign another player money. Depending on how many years you've been in the league, that could be $1 million a year, that could be $3 million a year. So that's what I mean when you ask $3 million, only if that's the minimum for that player's experience level.
I want Taco Fall. That's what I want. That 7'6" rookie guy. Give me him as a backup.
So that's going to take out some options, such as like Vucevic, for example, DeMarcus Cousins, right? It takes out, though, DeAndre Jordan, who's also a free agent. That takes out some of those options, and his Cantor
probably even takes out Dwayne Dedmon.
Probably, exactly. So the players that you could realistically get for that, I'll go through a few of these and kind of ask you guys what you think. Are they actual options for the Suns, and what direction would you see them going? Because the Suns do need a backup center, and it cannot be Dragan Bender solely. All right. Andrew Bogut.
No, he hates. I never liked Andrew Bogut, so I'm just going to say no on a personal level.
I can't imagine he likes Phoenix too much either, because wasn't it Amari that broke his arm or leg? Whatever.
Yeah, that was a complete mistake. But yeah, no, he doesn't really like the NBA. I think he only comes back for the Warriors or nobody.
Okay. Pau Gasol.
Yeah,
he'd be interesting. I don't know that he's gonna. I don't know that he's gonna want to come in and play that. I'm here just to be a mentor role.
Chandler.
Not for $3 million. All right, let's go. Amir Johnson.
Sure.
Yeah, if you could convince him to sign for that veteran minimum, and come in.
Roughly Richaun Holmes, which is who. The reason the Sixers got rid of Richaun Holmes is because they had Amir Johnson already,
and who has not been playable.
Correct. They chose poorly,
right,
but that was the reason they chose that.
Okay, Kosta Koufis.
Sure, absolutely. He's a big guy. He can rebound. He would be unobtrusive. He would not be threatening Ayton for a starting position, and he might be available for the minimum.
It breaks my rule of no player that rhymes with doofus, so no.
Robin Lopez.
You know what? I would actually love to see Robin Lopez back in Phoenix.
I would love to see Robin Lopez asked on camera if he would re-sign in Phoenix. That's what I would love.
So probably not. Then he's out.
But let me say why I would consider it, because he's the kind of guy that has very much the Deandre Ayton joy of life, but has that edge when he's on the court, and that's why I would love to see it.
I agree with you, but I would love to see him actually asked if he would ever sign with the Suns
Oh yeah,
again.
yeah. No, he
For
would.
some reason, things we don't know about. Maybe Greg, you do, but he was outsized angry at the Suns. I thought for how things went.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know the full story, but yeah, I mean, I highly doubt he ever would make a return to Phoenix. But maybe he's matured. Maybe he's more confident in himself as well, and that pressure of being a high draft pick wouldn't be there anymore. So maybe he would consider it.
He kind of
So guess how much his brother is taking this year
right now at this point in his career.
Sorry, Tim.
He kind of strikes me as a ring chaser at this point in his career.
Sure. I mean, he's never been, but he should be at this point. You're right. He could have done well. Robin Lopez, if he was available, he could have done well for the Lakers.
He's not the type of guy that would chase rings. He's the type of guy that wants somewhere that he can be comfortable and be himself. That's what I know of Robin Lopez.
Didn't he make a comment earlier this season about wanting to be traded to the Warriors?
I don't remember that, but
I do remember that, yeah.
Yep. Okay, Boban.
Wait. His brother Brooke. You said $3 million. How much is Brooke making this year?
Well, Brooke's not going to the Suns for a minimum deal. I mean,
I understand. But Brooke did sign for $3 million late July.
He did. I don't think that that's what he's going to do again.
No. But I guess what I'm saying is that's why I think some of these guys will sign for league minimum for the right situation for themselves.
Yes. Because
there's enough money out there.
Right situation for a lot of these guys, though, right? I mean,
very true.
It's just a backup center to a team that's not very good.
Are you suggesting the Bucks are a better situation than the Suns, Tim?
I don't want to be here.
Okay, how about Boban?
I would love that. I've heard he has the best personality of just about anybody, and he's in John Wick 3.
He is? Oh, now I'm in.
He's one of the guys that John Wick kills, I'm pretty sure.
Bring in Boban. If you got a John Wick tie, I want you here. Plus,
have you guys seen any of the just little things about Boban? He's like an incredible dancer, apparently. He's a crackpot, joke cracker. Constantly, he's got a great sense of humor. He just looks like, like he's not going to be that funny or smart or personality-wise, but I've heard he's incredible.
Well, and if you get him, that probably means you got Tobias Harris to play power forward as well, because they're best friends.
Those guys love each other.
JaVale McGee.
No, thanks.
No,
okay.
Thank you.
Greg Monroe.
No.
Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I'm all right, thank you.
Mike Muscala.
I don't know enough about him, but why not? He's probably the perfect example of a guy who would sign with the Suns.
I think he's a perfect example of a guy that gets $5-6 million.
I think he's a perfect example of a guy you think should get that, will still sign minimum, and wants to go somewhere he can possibly get some minutes.
So not the Suns. Joakim Noah.
No, he would get minutes on the Suns if he's a passive. If you think he's worth $5-6 million on the market, then why would he not be perfect for the Suns for the 15 minutes or so that Deandre Ayton sits?
Fair. Joakim Noah.
No.
God, if you sign a guy with a man bun, come on, well,
he's
guys.
He's just Tyson Chandler or Trevor Reed, but actually even worse.
Zaza Pachulia.
I never liked him that much personally, but he'd be probably somebody they would want to sign.
Who's Zaza Pachulia? Isn't it Zaza Pachulia?
Yeah. I was hoping you guys were the same.
Isn't Pachulia some kind of reference to pot or something? What is Tim doing over there?
I think that's an appetizer at True Food or something like that. Pachulia.
I'll take a plate of the Pachulia, please. The pasta for Pachulia, please.
Pachulia.
There's a chance I'm a bit hungover this morning. I went out for happy hour drinks with my coworkers last night, and it ended up going into the late
the wee hours.
Well,
that's interesting because I was wondering why this is the first time I've ever heard you mispronounce a name.
Yeah.
That Dan Majurl is the best I've ever seen play Play small forward for the Suns.
Damn it, Gerald.
All right, so kind of recapping this.
Wait, did you go through the whole list? What about
okay, I mean, pretty much, yeah. Like, they aren't going to get Vucevic. There's not a lot of other great options.
Eki Udo.
Okay, Udo.
Who?
Why not? Exactly.
Okay.
Give me Boban. You guys have got me far too excited about having a guy that was in John Wick.
Stoked about getting Boban. I think that's the main reason he got that big contract when Detroit signed him, because probably Stan loved talking to him on the phone or something like that.
So we talked, and after the consensus list we came to was Boban's an option, possibly Mike Muscala.
Ooh, look, listen to the excitement. Phoenix Suns basketball.
Oh man! Oh, Chris Humphries. I thought Chris Humphries was on this list, but it's somebody else.
It's a great free agent center class coming up.
But the Suns don't have any of them,
right?
Because they don't need any of them.
They need somebody. You know,
potentially, yeah, they'll get somebody. They'll get some dude. Like, you know what? I'll dial us all the way back to August. How many people were excited about Richaun Holmes? Not many.
I think Tim was. I think Tim had. Yeah, if I remember correctly, Tim had an awkward fascination with Richaun Holmes. He was
recalling, because Richaun was great.
Yeah.
Taking a step. On the list. You didn't mention him. There's like half a dozen guys on this list that were backup centers for the Suns.
Great. I can't wait to replay some of that. Look, so Detroit, Boban, Tobias Harris. Was that Jeff Bauer in Detroit? So do you wind up having a beat on those guys? I'm trying to remember.
What? It probably was Bauer, but Stan was the guy really in charge. Bauer was just the dude in the office.
But that means there's at least a connection, and we've seen that connection probably played a big part in the Monty Williams hiring. So
all my energy would skyrocket if they signed Boban. Just for the chance of interviewing him. I would love it. Seriously, that would be the highlight of my off season. Then we'd have to get him on the show simply to talk about dancing and being in John Wick 3. Like that would be the ultimate.
So then, given the realistic options, does that make Richaun Holmes an even more realistic option for what they decide to do with this cap space?
Well, that's what I was going to wrap up with. So what I think is, because this list has about 30 centers on it?
Yeah, about.
And I know at least half of these guys are going to sign for the league minimum. At least, if not 3/4 of these guys, because the league is not. Certainly, we already talked about how the league is not geared toward centers anymore, even though there are probably of the top 10 players in the league, several of them are centers. But it's not geared toward backup centers. And so I really don't think many of these guys are going to get above minimum. It just is what it is. So with that said, it's very possible that Richaun Holmes will not get any offers out there. And that we know that there are no bridges burned in Phoenix. So he may come back on nothing more than what he made last year kind of deal. So, and the Suns, whether or not they keep his bird rights or not is immaterial, because his minimum next year would be higher than, I'm pretty sure, almost the same exact value as his bird rights are. So you can exceed the cap on minimum deals. So I think there's no value in actually keeping his cap hold, and you can still sign him.
The interesting thing, too, is my guess is we're basing a lot of this off of his comments that he's got to get back to shooting threes and doing that. With a change in coach, there's nothing to say that isn't something that would be necessary here in Phoenix. The scheme may dictate that. So.
Let's be a little bit fair. I mean, he had possibly his most impactful season, and he played exactly the role that Igor wanted him to. Igor did put people in positions to succeed. It may not have he didn't pull all the shackles off of people like prior coaches did. So just because Richaun Holmes wants to take threes doesn't mean he was a better player if he had taken threes.
No, but it's terrifying to think that Igor put players in the best position to succeed, and this talent got you 19 wins in that.
No, he wasn't. Igor wasn't a great game coach, and he certainly didn't have a roster that could succeed. But you have to admit that most of the players individually did the right things, and you weren't scratching your head on what players were doing on the court except for Josh Jackson.
They started 3 rookies, and the starting point guard was not just a rookie, but he was a second round.
Who had never been a point guard more than a year in his life. None of those guys had played real point guard their entire life.
What was this team supposed to win?
I get the reality. It was called a joke, gentlemen. I understand that he didn't have talent. The point, yes, he put Richaun Holmes in a position to succeed. My point was simply Rashawn's mindset. Maybe, hey, I'll try Phoenix again because there's a new coach, and maybe I'll get to showcase some of that as well. It wouldn't be. There's not the baggage of if he didn't like the way Igor played him. That's no longer an issue here.
And to Dave's point, it might come down with Richaun Holmes to whether or not he gets an offer. And given how many centers, there's actually 38 on the list.
38, jeez.
A few of them are restricted, but how many, whether or not he gets an offer from another team, right?
I'd be surprised if more than, I'll go 10, and that's high. I'd be very surprised if more than 10 of those guys get more than league minimum next year.
And so a couple of them are, like Tyson Chandler might retire. There's some guys on there that might not get another.
So that helps my cause.
Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, fun episode, guys. Always nice to pod with you and be on YouTube with you. And next week we are actually going to talk about the draft.
Right on.
Sweet. Bobon forever.
There's your pod name.